on chapter 3, and in chapter 3 we are learning to skip count by 2s, 10s, and 5s. So how do we skip count by 2s? It is a repetition of these numbers: 2, 4, 6, 8, and then 10, and it just continues on. So then it'll be 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 again, but this will be 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Then it'll be 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, then 32, 34, 36, 38, and so on. So that is something that we will practice a lot so that the kids will really learn counting by their 2s. And then we have our 10s. Anytime, also for the 2s, anytime that you see a number end in a 2, 4, 6, 8, or 10, or 0, then we know that there is a number that we can multiply by 2 to get that number. So we know that these are all going to be you can multiply them to get that number. So for example, over here, if you look at the 12, that would be 2 times 6. But that's something we'll learn further along. So over here, we will do the 10s. And the 10s are very simple because they're just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down. And then it's a 0 next to it. So it's 10, 20, 30, 40. Next one is 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Let's get it up. And 100. Okay? So to kind of review, 10s are just it's similar to counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, just with a 0 at the end. And then as you pass 100, now it's going to be 200, 300, with 2 zeros. And then when it gets to the thousands, there'll be 3 zeros. So it's just 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So helping your kid learn how to do that is great. It's going to make them do plenty of it in this lesson so that they can really get that skill down. And the 2s, like I said, are just repetitions of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and then again and again. So that's how you know if you see any of these numbers repeated over and over, that's how you know that it's a good indication that we are about to skip count by 2s. And we saw the 2 here, we saw the 10, and we saw an 8 at the back of this 18. So we knew that that was skip counting by 2s. Over here we just saw zeros. We saw a 0 at the 20, 0, the 30 ending in 0, and the 100 ending in 0. So we knew it was by 10s because it seems like almost every number was, well, all numbers were ending in 0. Okay, and we come over here, and now we'll do the 5s. So the 5s alternate. They alternate with the last number ending in either 5 or 0. So we see this 0, 5, and 0. So since it's alternating between these two numbers, we know that's going to be a 5. We are skip counting by 5s here. So it's 5, 10, 15, and see, since we have 5, 0, 5, we know that the next number is going to end in a 0 because that's how it alternates. 5, 0, 5, 0, 5, 0, 5. So we know it's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, then the next up is 30, 35, 40, and 45, 50. And then over here on number 4, we see the 5. So we know that this is more 5 skip counting. And here at the bottom, we do the same exact thing. It's just side by side instead of stacked up like this. So we would do, we see the 2, we see the 12 that ends in a 2. So we know that this is skip counting by 2s. Over here we see the 5 and we see the 15 that ends in another 5. So this is skip counting by 5s. And then over here we just see zeros at the ends. So we know that that's skip counting by 10s. And we have the 10 at the front. So this one's pretty, just pretty easy to know just because the first number already shows you what we're skip counting by. And then we just have more skip counting, and more skip counting. And then once we get to lesson 3D, that's when we go and we review what we learned in chapter 2, which was multiplying by 1s and multiplying by zeros. Do not get confused by the other number we're multiplying. Anytime you see a 1, then your answer is the other number. Anything times 1 equals itself. Anytime you see the 0, the other number doesn't really matter because anything times 0 is 0. 10 groups of nothing equal nothing. Remember I said that in the other video, in a previous video, that anytime you see a multiplication sign, you can assume that that means groups of. So it's 1 groups of 7, 6 groups of 1. And if you think of it in groups, it really is easier to understand multiplication. Okay, when we see these parentheses, what does that mean? Multiply. When we see this dot, what does it mean? Multiply. And when we see this X, what does that mean? Multiply. Okay, then we have some addition and subtraction. And then we come to the juicy part, which is the word problems. Okay? And we've already done word problems like number 16 in this video. And let me put something here so that it helps with this. Okay, so we've already done word problems like number 16 that are very kind of straightforward. They say, how many is 0 counted 9 times? And in the last chapter, we know that anytime we hear counted, that's an indication that it's probably going to be multiplication. Because in this book, they will put in some word problems that are addition and subtraction, just to kind of, make sure you're paying attention, or there'll be 2-step problems, which is another thing that you have to pay attention to. Okay, you might have to add something after you multiply something else. So in this one, it's pretty simple though. It's straightforward. How many is 0? Counted, that gives us a little indication, that might be multiplication, counted 9 times. So they're counting it. They're counting 0 a certain amount of times, 0 times. So if you count 9 0 times, you didn't say anything because you just didn't count it at all. So it's 0. If I say something, nothing 9 times, then what is it? Nothing. Okay? Then we go down to number 17. Okay? Number 17 says, each flower has 5 petals. Jen needs 35 dried petals for her art project. How many flowers must she pick? Use your knowledge of skip counting. Okay, so one thing that we see is that each flower has 5 petals. Okay, we also see the number 35, and that's how many dried petals Jen needs. So it looks like since 35 ends in 5, and we tried, what did we do? We learned how to skip count by 2s, by 5s, and by 10s. And since it ends in a 5, we know that when you skip count by 5s, your numbers end in 0, and 5, 0 and 5, and they keep alternating. So we know that since the ending number, the total amount that Jen needs is 35 petals, we know that we will be skip counting by 5. But we also know that because we have to figure out how many flowers Jen needs, and each flower has 5 petals. So those are both of our clues to this. Okay, so we can draw visuals, which are really helpful because that way our mind starts to really think of grouping, especially early on. It's great to draw visuals. So I'll make the first flower, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are all my petals. Okay, so that's 5. I have 5 petals with this first flower. Okay, how many do I need? I need 35 total. Okay, so I'll put my number there so that I know once I get to that number. Okay, I'll draw my next flower, because these are the flowers that Jen is picking, and she's picking them until she gets those 35 petals she needs. So this is 5. What goes next? 5, 10. Okay, that's still not 35, so I still need more flowers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5, 10, 15. That's still not 35, so I'll keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 more petals. 5, 10, 15, 20. Okay, still not 35, so I still have to keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 more petals. This is 25. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And then I'll do this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. And how many flowers? So now I have 35 petals, just like I needed. How many flowers did I need for that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So Jen needs to, how many flowers must she pick? 7 flowers. So 7 flowers would be the answer. Okay. And these visuals, we're not going to do these visuals for every problem, but at the beginning it's a nice way to kind of get the kids understanding, okay, this is what we're doing, we're just counting in groups. Okay, we'll go to number 18, and it says Eunice gave 1 cookie to each of her 7 children. How many cookies did she give them all together? Okay, so here we can, if we want to make ourselves a visual, we can, or we can just go ahead and try to piece together the equation we have to solve with the multiplication. So it says Eunice gave 1 cookie, so each child got 1 to each of her 7 children. How many children were there? There was 7. How many cookies did she give them all together? Well, what do we do when we're multiplying by 1? We look in the mirror. So the 7's taking a look in the mirror and it's seeing itself. So anything times 1 equals itself, so it's 7. If it's still kind of hard to, get those word problems into equations like we did here, then as usual, you can just give yourself a nice little visual. Eunice gave 1 cookie to each of her 7 children. So I would make little smiley faces. These are all the kids, okay? 4, so 7, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 kids, okay? And they each got 1 cookie. So 1 cookie, 1 cookie, 1 for you, 1 for you, and 1 for you, and 1 for you. How many cookies did she give them all together? Well, let's count the cookies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 cookies. 7 cookies would be the answer. So you can do the visual. If you're starting to understand and you can do the equations already, then you can do those as well. Whichever one works for you is fine. Okay, now we'll go to chapter 19. it says Hannah read 5 chapters, problem 19. Hannah read 5 chapters of her book yesterday and 6 chapters today. How many chapters has she read? Okay, so if we don't read our problems, which has happened in the past, and we just say, you know what, I'm seeing over here a little bit of a pattern, right? Because if I look at over here, if I look over here to chapter, question number 16, it says, how many is 0 counted 9 times? Well, all I had to do was 0 times 9. And then I come over here to problem number 18, and it says, Eunice gave 1 cookie to each of her 7 children. Oh, then it's just 1 times 7. And I just start to kind of grab these numbers and multiply. Then when I get to something that's a little different, because I'm not reading, I'm just grabbing the numbers, then I will get the problem wrong. So you read everything and make sure that you're understanding what it's telling you. Okay? So it says Hannah read 5 chapters of her book yesterday. So yesterday, Hannah read how many chapters? 5 chapters. And then it says, and 6 chapters today. So today, how many did she read? She read 6 chapters. Okay? And it says, how many chapters has she read? So they want to know how many altogether. If we know it was 5 yesterday and it was 6 today, then do we have to multiply or just add? It's just adding. So this would just be 5 plus 6, and that would be 11. So don't allow them to, they throw in an addition or subtraction problem or 2-step problem to make sure you're paying attention. So make sure that you do that. Make sure you pay attention so that you know what it is they're asking you to do. Okay? So that's that. That would be 11 chapters. Okay? The next one, it says, the last one is number 20, which says, each of the children in the class owned 0 rocket ships. Okay, so everybody has nothing. They don't have any rocket ships. There are 7 boys and 9 girls. How many rocket ships did they own altogether? So if we know that 0 is nothing, then we know they own nothing, right? So that's an easy way to solve that one. But these problems are going to get harder where you can't just think it out that way. So let's actually write down our equations and figure out how to solve this. So the question says, how many rocket ships did they own altogether? So first we have to figure out how many kids are all together, regardless of if they're boys or girls. So there are 7 boys and 9 girls. So 7 plus 9. And I'm going to actually solve this one with 9 at the top plus 7 like this, so that I can solve it the way I would by making the 10. Okay, so 9 girls, 7 boys. So we're going to find out how many kids altogether. Okay, we know that to make a 10, we only need 1 more added to the 9. So we're going to break 7 down into 1 plus 8. That way we can give this 1, oh, I don't know why I put 8. Sorry about that. 1 plus 6. So we're breaking the 7 down into 1 plus 6 because 1 plus 6 equals 7, and because we need this 1 to give it to the 9 to make a 10. So this 9 plus 1 will give us that 10 we need. Then we bring down the rest of it, which is plus 6, and we know that 9 plus 7 is 16, because 10 plus 6 is 16. Okay, so that's how many, what we've gotten so far is what? They said there was 7 boys, this is our 7 right here, and there was 9 girls. So what did we find here with the 16? How many total, the total amount of kids? Total kids. Okay, that's what 16 is. But what is the question asking? How many rocket ships did they own altogether? Okay, now that we have our total number, 16, Okay, we have to find out how many each one of them had. So we can multiply that and figure out how many altogether. So it says each of the students in the class owned 0. So each one of them had 0. So our equation is 16 times 0. Okay, what is anything times 0? If you have 16 groups of nothing, because this is what that says, 16 groups of nothing, then you have nothing. Anything times 0 is 0. Okay? Okay, everything else is just more skip counting, more review of the zeros and the ones, and then some more of the similar types of word problems. If you guys have any questions, please send me a message and I'll help. Thanks.